Food. Yo, do you want the onion rings, Mike?
Take it.
The kitty chest.
Strawberry Greek yogurt is the next big thing. The tablespoon yogurt. Want some Greek yogurt? Here's your question. How's what tastes best?
Silk on mine. Silk. Good stuff. Yeah, good. That's why there's a whole gallon of milk next to it. Yeah. Good stuff, all right. Woo! What, you fart again?
No.
Yeah. I had to go to bed and be wide awake until 4 in the morning. Then I had to get up at 5 to help his brother move the rest of that shit.
That wouldn't be the first.
So, 10 bucks at that place? Oh yeah, you gotta move a tractor too.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. All right, boys. Yeah. Till next week. Kitty cat toys over here. Ooh, an Amazon box. What's in there? Ah, got a little chilly out here. That's nice. Dark over here. Let's see. We're at 112,633. Haven't gone nowhere. Well, I guess I'm going to Poughkeepsie possibly during the week. Yep. Oh, I don't know. She'll call you. I have no idea when her fucking appointment is. She'll have to make one. Hope she can get another. The more advance notice I get, the more I can secure the day. Mm-hmm. I told her that. Luckily, I'm not like a busy every freaking day, but some days I am. Yeah. You'd be surprised. So I have to wait her fucking turn, that's all. And then I gotta, say, okay, something came up, and, luckily the 2 jobs that I had to do last week, 3 jobs I had to do, and I kind of lost one, but it really wasn't going to be paying that much anyway. It was the neighbor. Why? What'd you have to do for that? Well, they all knew, because she fell and cracked her ribs, so they all knew. So then everybody was all like, I was like a little busy right now, and they all knew. So I said, oh, okay, I had a legitimate excuse. So, everybody was like, oh, and so I said, yeah, so I was in there for 3 days. Not a problem. What the fuck? Oh, it's a bike. Jesus, all I saw was weird little lights blinking. That's what that fucker was. somebody over there.
No lights on?
Yeah, they got lights on.
Fog lights.
Oh, no, got a headlight out.
Give them a ticket.
Mm-hmm. That's what's going to happen if they get caught. Just won another machine tonight. Getting it for $212.
I have a feeling we're going to see some parts and Victrola parts there.
This is exactly the same machine I just sold for $320. This is a nicer looking one too, a little bit better finish. Same machine I'm holding for that guy down in. I forgot to look at his fucking address.
Let me
I knew
know.
there was something.
Well,
yeah.
we got a couple of weeks, but 2 or 3 weeks. But let me know.
Yeah, I'll get it.
That's in my path. I'll have no problem saying, "Here you go." And I literally just cut right through there.
Mm-hmm.
Like cut right through there. The whole, damn near the whole state.
Well, I don't want you traveling, way out of your fucking way for this guy.
Well, when I went to Tennessee, I went through one way and cut through another way. No, I literally...
Because it would basically cost $45 to ship this, U.S. Postal Service. It's extremely well packed in a double box, heavy pack. Plus, it's a portable machine. It's already in a box. Its own box, it's made to be moved around and shipped.
Well, the guy doesn't want it to be U.S. mail. Let me know. And
I sent one to fucking Hong Kong and had no problem getting there.
Well, of course.
Sent another one to Turkey. Unbelievable. This guy, he's afraid to ship, but he's too cheap. Paid it $40. I don't know what it is. I said, fine. Don't want to. Yeah, I'll hold on to it. You want to trust me for a whole fucking year to hold this machine?
So it's supposed to be when in 2015?
Sometime April, I don't know, somewhere in there. 2015. So you're putting an awful lot of trust in somebody you don't even know,
Well, like I said, let me know the address.
Yes, I have good feedback on eBay and shit, but you don't know me. And you're giving me $300, telling me to hold your property for a whole fucking year. You don't know, I could be on the verge of death or some shit like that. You'll be shit out of luck. Oh, fog. Spooky. In front of the haunted mausoleum of a fucking insane asylum here.
Just gonna hook the positive and negative up here and start turning the dial up.
Yeah.
That's all nice and cut and trimmed.
Yeah, appearance is gonna be deceiving. It's a mess inside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what about the cleaning on the inside? We got no videos of that now.
No videos I'm aware of.
They're not posting week by week.
No, they're not doing that. Not anywhere that I found. There might be a personal website somewhere I'm not aware of, but it's not really something they're going to publicize. Last thing they want is their prospective tenants or students to see this massive mound of fucking asbestos and shit, and lead paint all over the place.
Massive dust blows, you see the apparitions.
Yeah, you'll see them all right, and then you'll be one, yeah. I put a bid in. I didn't think I would get it because these machines usually go $300 to $400. I guess nobody noticed it. Sailed right the fuck through. I got it. Every now and then you get lucky with that.
I know a little bit something about eBay. She went to bid on something. It was a little vinegar, one of the vinegar cruettes. And she's like, is it $3.99 or something? I says, yeah, okay. When's it expire? 5 days, 4 hours. I said, okay. So I set my clock to it. And I said, what's going to happen here is you have to wait until the last hour. And I said, there may be a bidding war. She goes, what's that? I said, you might get outbid on this.
That's right.
She goes, there's only one bid. And she's like, do you think I should go higher? I said, yeah, I think so.
Yep.
So she put how much do you think I should go? I said, what's the most you want to pay for this? Not more than $15, and put $10 on it. 45 minutes, half an hour, 15 minutes. She's like, and all of a sudden, 5 minutes came. Bing, 2 bids.
There they come.
And I go, And all of a sudden, 3, 4, 5, bing, 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 going up to $26.
Yep.
And she's like, oh my.
Yeah.
It was gone.
I love it when they do that. At least I love it when I'm selling something and they do that.
Oh, yeah, right? You ever watch your stuff at the last minute?
Yes.
And watch it, yeah?
I was watching one tonight. The second machine that I won tonight. It's
a Roxy, basically. It was made on the one I told you, made in Long Island. Oh, no, I didn't. I told the old man that, I think. It was made in Long Island, New York. Really nice looking machine. It's red, you know, fake leather case, portable. Because I only fuck with portables now, pretty much, and they're easy to ship. And it's all there, and it works. And the guy had listed for $51. So I put the $51 bid in 2 days ago. And I'm watching. Nobody bid against me. And I got it for that amount, which is a fucking steal because I'm going to sell that machine for $200-300. Once I get it, I do the service on it. So that's what holds a lot of people back, is because they don't know how to do. They don't want to have. They find out that they can get the service done, but it costs a lot of money. You know, the professional guys doing it, you know, all the time, they're going to charge them $300-400 to refurbish the motor, which is basically all they do is they take it apart, they clean it, they put it back together again with new grease and new oil, because that old grease just locks everything up. It slows it up. And it's like fucking cement. And they put new gaskets in the sound box, which is easy to do when you know how to do it. And I know how to do that. So when I sell my machines, I list them well. I removed the spring, I cleaned it, I repacked it with fresh grease, no thumping bumps or funny rattles. You wind it up, you put the record on the platter, and you just play it. That's all you gotta do. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to clean anything, you don't have to fuck around with it. It's good for 25 years. Or until you break something, which is always a possibility with an ancient, you know, mechanical device. With that guy with the Swiss machine, he's getting it from me tomorrow. I'm always very careful in my listings to list all the faults of something, because I know that's what they'll get me on. If I forget something good, they don't care. If I forget something bad, they're gonna fuck me hard. Fuck that. Yeah, this guy forgot that. I mean, burnt on the back of it, that's bad. That's a major omission. He wrote something about there's damage to the leather covering on the one part of the machine. Call it leather. It's not. It's fake leather. Leatherette or whatever they've called it back then. But it's charred. You know, there's charred wood there. It was in a fire.
What's that one of my old landlord's place over in Mayapack worth?
It's a lot of fucking money. Those things are still selling about $1,000. But I don't know the exact. Did you tell me the exact model of the machine?
Mike had it on his phone.
Oh, maybe I did know. Was it a Victor 2? Did I say it was Victor 2 or Victor 3? Well, either one is $1,000, you know. I'm assuming it plays and everything's. It's all there and halfway decent.
Yeah, it does.
It's hard to tell from a picture. I mean, I paid $1,200 for mine when I bought it, and I was lucky enough to get a machine in extremely good original condition, which is not easy to find for something that old. It's 1906. And it's the early model of it, which is highly sought after by collectors. The later model is a bit more plain, you know, and not quite as popular. But he had the early model too, by the look of it, with the humpback in the back and the little columns on the side of the case. So yeah, that's a good one to have. And any outside Horde machine is something collectors really seek. Because they really stopped being too popular after 1910 or so. They continued to make them into the 20s, but their popularity steadily declined in favor of the much easier to store and use Victrola. You know, the Victrola didn't take up nearly as much room with that giant horn. You didn't whack your head on the fucking thing every time you went to put a record on it, that kind of shit. You know, but they weren't as ornate. The one thing about the outside horn machines, people could get very carried away in how ornate a horn they put on it. There were some really beautiful designs they had back then. You know, the big flower horns, the witches' hats, the brass, all that shit. And some of them were wood. So they were very decorative. And that's why collectors like them today. More ornate, better.
Piece of furniture.
Yes, well, all Victrolas were to a certain extent. The only ones that weren't were the portables. Because they were made to be stored in the closet and taken out only when you were going on a picnic. But all the tabletop models, they were made to be furniture. You didn't move them around. And especially the floor models. They were absolutely furniture.
I wonder how many of those went down with the Titanic.
Plenty of them, I'm sure. I'll bet you every first-class stateroom had some kind of gramophone in it. Probably HMVs, because that was a British ship. Might have been an Edison or two on there, who knows? There were definitely some, sure. That would have been a very popular thing at that time. You know, today it's televisions in the staterooms. Back then, all you had was the Victrola. They put a selection of records in there, I'm sure, for the first-class passengers to play. I'm sure there would have been some in the lounges and shit for second and third class also. Crew lounge, possibly, you know, stuff like that. And I prefer to work with Victor whenever possible because they're very nice machines to work with. Very easy, the best designs, the best patents. You know, the other machines are interesting, but they're not necessarily better, and you know, sometimes they're a pain in the ass to work on.
The British machines, what are those called?
Well, they had all, you know, in this country alone, between 1900 and 1930, we had over 400 different companies manufacturing phonographs. Some the whole phonograph, some just part of it, and using other people's parts to put it together. The British had a similar thing going, but number one over there was HMV, his master's voice. That was the British Gramophone Company. That was the Victor subsidiary in Great Britain. Very good machines, very high quality. Germany had their own, French had Pathé, you know, the Swiss had Pillard and all that. And all over the world, you know, they were phonograph manufacturers. It was so insanely popular. I don't think there was a single country in the world that didn't have somebody making phonographs. Because it was so unique, you know, recorded sound, that was amazing.
HMV worth anything?
Yes, I just bought one for $112 about last week. But this one I bought needs some work. That's why I buy them. Because I'm going to do the work and then sell it to make the big money on it. If you get one, it's not easy to get in this country because not many of them were imported over here. Mostly it was GIs bringing them home after the war and shit because they bought them over there. But you can get them from Great Britain. They started around $3 and change, go all the way up to $600 and $700. Very good machines. Solid, dependable, no problems. Good reproducers and shit. And the Russians had some good machines too. All copies of our stuff, of course. But in this country, you had like the bicycles he was talking about. You had Victor, they were number one.
Columbia.
Victor, Edison, Columbia, Brunswick, and who was bringing a Sonora? I think was bringing it back or something like that. The big three were Victor, Edison, and Columbia. And the big three allowed the others to exist because if they didn't, they'd be, you know, charged with trust violations, you know, antitrust suits and shit like that. So they had to allow some smaller phonograph manufacturers. But as long as these phonograph manufacturers paid royalties for whatever parts of the, you know, the big three's designs they might choose to use, they had no problem with it. And that's fine. You're paying us for the rights to use a tapered tone arm or a certain type of reproducer or a certain spring motor. And then there were others that had their own designs. And then, you know, usually we're not quite as good as Victor's or Edison's or Columbia's, but no, I never particularly cared for Columbia that much because they had a tendency to use a lot of fucking pot metal. And pot metal swells up over time, cracks, has other problems. Sometimes you get lucky and it doesn't. Most of the time it does. So I tend to avoid Columbia when I can. Edison, they have a vertical cut. Is it vertical or horizontal? Whatever it was. They don't use the same records that everybody else does, which is a pain in the ass. I don't have very many Edison records. I don't collect Edisons. I have one Edison machine, a cylinder machine. That's
All
it.
those wax cylinders.
Yes, that's the machine I have. That's the one machine I have. They were records. They were wax cylinder records. Black wax, they call it. It's not really wax, but it feels like it is. You know, it's like a very hard kind of early plastic. What the hell's all that? Were they just blinking the lights at you, or is that just bouncing?
Bouncing.
Yeah. You know, I like the regular phonographs that play the records I actually own and everybody else owns, and that would be, you know, mostly Victor. I mean, Victor ruled the first 30 years of the phonographs, you know, the phonograph world until 1929 when they merged with RCA, and even after that, they were pretty powerful. But they had all the best patents. That's why. Their patented motor designs, their tone arms, their reproducers, all of that shit. So they could corner the market and have literally the best sounding machines. I mean, anybody who's worked on a Victor product of that era knows how well they're made. It's amazing sometimes to see these motors that look perfect. Everything is beautiful. There's no discernible wear on them, but you know this machine was played a lot in its day. You know, nobody paid huge money for these things back then, which they did, and didn't use them. You know, that maybe a portable, which only would get used when you're out and about, although some people did use them as regular machines in the house too. They're the more ornate ones anyway.
That big pink witch's hat on there, that's the French one, that's real expensive.
Pink?
Yeah, on Boardwalk Empire they had one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anything with a external horn is very expensive. Yeah, those are the big money machines. And those are the machines most people associate with antique phonograph.
How much better did it sound with the horn?
Not necessarily better, just different. You know, the internal horn machine sounded very good too. And Victor put a lot of experimentation and work and time into those machines. You know, they were not accepted by the public because they sounded like shit. And they were accepted by the public, you know, in droves. Victor started putting those things out around 1910, 1911, and they were very popular. And cheaper. You know, they're little Victor 4s and such. I mean, they sold for a lot of money by today's standards. You know, $26 in 1911 or whatever it was, that was a lot of money. You know, when the average wage might be $6 a week for a working man or something like that. And the bigger, more ornate machines could go for hundreds of dollars. You know, that really adds up quick. But I sold all the parts machines I had, every one of them. Some of them I had done work to, some I hadn't. Because I hate doing cabinet work. I like the mechanical part. I really don't like refinishing and shit like that. I'll pass that off. You know, I'll do the cabinet work. You do it any way you want. You finish it, don't refinish it. And I made money in every single one of them. All I really did was take the motors apart, clean everything up, put new grease in them, put them back together, adjust them. I know how to adjust them, redraw the motor. And now I know how to rebuild reproducers because my buddy there in Turkey walked me right through it. It's very simple. And the results are actually better than the fucking ones I was sending out to have done. They sound better. Maybe because I take a little more time tuning the fucking things. So I'm not sending my reproducers out to get them done anymore. I'm doing it myself. It's amazingly easy once you get it down. Now, that was a very useful contact. I wish there was more like him in this country. He's got a nice store over there in Turkey. Man, he's got some beautiful fucking machines. All, and radios too. A lot of antique radios, all done up nice.
I think we'll find some Victrolas up at the...
Oh, there's always Victrolas. It's just that there's a fine line between one that that's a really nice machine. Well, that's great. If I needed one, that would be the one to buy. But I already have some really nice machines. Now I got a half a dozen really nice machines that are my personal collection. I need to find that Victrola that's just good enough where I could buy it, put the mechanical work into it, and it still looks just good enough to sell. You know, without me having to refinish the whole fucking thing. Or it's cheap enough that I can buy it for parts. Now, I remember that time I bought that Victrola 35 that has now come in useful twice to resurrect two other machines. It was just a pile of parts. I tripped over the fucking thing. How much you want for this? No, a 60 bucks good? I looked at it, it's got like a brand new fucking reproducer on there. I said, no problem. There you go. Now that saved me a fucking fortune. You know, I found a critical gear I needed for the last VV35 I bought. And the first one I bought a couple years ago, which is the one I used in the Model T, it needed a couple things and it was all right in there. So that was very useful. And there's still plenty of good parts I salvaged out of that. So finding stuff like that is good. And I have a standing order for a certain type of reproducer. If I happen to see one at the flea, he even said, the guy in Turkey, if you're at a flea market and you see one, he goes to flea markets over there and in Russia. It was funny, he sent me pictures of a flea market he went to in St. Petersburg. It looked just like Stormville.
Oh, yeah.
Same shit, same people, and look like it. I'm like, wow. You know, that's the other side of the fucking world. Not a goddamn thing that's different. Except maybe they got rubles or something instead of dollars, but still.
Bradley Kuhn, a big one. See him?
Yeah. They're out. Nocturnal critters. Most of the time.
Hopefully I won't get skunked on the way home here.
So if I happen to see a reproducer sitting in a case of junk or something like that, and I can get it cheap, I can buy them on eBay for like 50 bucks, 40 bucks sometimes. If they're really nice, maybe $70. But I'd like to find a couple spares. Sell him one, keep a few myself. One thing I usually don't see up there, though, is the portables. Yeah, plenty of electric portables and shit like that for the 50s and 60s, but, you know, the mechanical portables, I don't really remember seeing too many up there. I don't know why. You know, maybe they're just not that popular in this part of the world, or people don't bother with them. I don't know. And I could use some record boxes too. Good ones, you know, the nice wooden ones. Not the fucking metal ones. Metal may be durable, but it's hard on the fucking records. Wood's a little more cushioned. Fuck, is that a motorcycle up there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or that's Wayne's old bike.
See a few up there. Hopefully it's not fucking a million goddamn degrees.
Well,
I know
it's
it's
not all summer, so.
Well, it's supposed to warm up this week a little bit, I think. It's going to be skirting with 90. I think. At least a couple of days, 85, 86, 87. Hopefully that's gone by the weekend, I hope. Fuck's this guy going? Oh.
President of the association over there was like, well, you know, we've talked about this before. When you bring your trash out, you know, she's talking about all the newspapers and shit. You know, I want these in a paper bag, and I want them tied up, in, you know, with string. And you know what my answer was?
What?
All right, so give me $50 a month. I'll take care of that. Oh, you're gonna have to do this on your own. And then the trash people come to pick it up. They don't care.
No.
They don't want it gift wrapped.
Yeah.
So I said, $50 for what? Paper bags are expensive. String's expensive. That's time, gas, and money.
Yeah.
$50 a month. She walked away.
Yeah, I could never tolerate places like that for very long. You know? I pay my fucking bills there, you leave me the fuck alone. Bullshit of measuring lawns with fucking rulers and shit like that. I'd kill somebody before too long. Be a bloody pulp lying on the side of the fucking road. Beaten to death. I'll shove that fucking ruler up somebody's ass. That's the problem with living right on top of other people. Fuck that. You gotta live far away from people as you fucking possibly can. These people fucking suck.
She's bored, you know.
Well, I imagine she can't get around and do much, so that's gonna lead to boredom. Probably wishes she never left fucking California.
I don't know where she's. No, not the lady I'm with. The